This Deebo Samuel situation is not getting any better, and we are about to talk about it next. All right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And tonight is a Tuesday edition with my man, So Real, Suneil. And it's funny, Suneil. First, let me ask you how you're doing, and then I'll break down exactly what the hell's going on. Go ahead, Suneil. How you doing?
Look, man, came home from work, opened up my Twitter, and my phone exploded, man. All of the news about Deebo. Unfortunately, it wasn't surprising, but I'm excited to talk about it with you on your show, my man.
Well, here's what's crazy is you and I come up with topics either the night before, the day of, and we had a whole topic list. Nothing to do with Deebo Samuel. In fact, the original show had a whole different thumbnail. It had a whole different title. And I was actually kind of excited to be doing a show that wasn't related to Deebo Samuel and Trey Lance for the first time in a month, it feels like. And then ish hit the fan. So first it was you hit me up and you go, hey, let's make sure we talk about Deebo Samuel. Adam Shefter just threw a little bit of a bombshell out there. Boom. So I changed the thumbnail. I changed the title, everything. And then it just got spicier. It just kept getting spicier and spicier. Wow. Let's check in with the chat. Let's give everybody a second to pour in here, and then we've got to talk about this whole thing. Definitely going to need that no Deebo mock draft. TB12, I promise it is coming. It'll happen Thursday for sure. I know I said last Thursday, but my co-host is in the middle of moving, but we are certainly doing it this Thursday. And then next week, we will be doing mocks for the open mic call-in show. So anybody that wants to be a part of that and do their mocks live on the show can certainly jump in on that. But I promise we will do that, especially now that all of this stuff is going on with Deebo Samuel. It's trending in a worse direction. I cannot believe that it keeps getting worse. Let me show you some love, though. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's talk about it. The first thing that came out today is Adam Shefter talking about how the 49ers want to get a deal done. If it was up to them, they would have a deal done yesterday. They would have a deal done today. All of those things, right? And TB12 says Schefter sounds like a 49ers mouthpiece, which I completely agree with here. I think that is the 49ers getting out their message. And what's happening right now is the court of public opinion on this whole situation. But the crazy thing is this Schefter news is the least of the big news when it comes to Deebo. But let's try to take this and compartmentalize it. Let's talk about the Adam Shefter piece first, and then we can talk about the rest. So when the Adam Shefter portion broke, what was your thoughts on that? How'd you feel about that?
So I want Deebo to be on the team. Like, we're both on the same page. I think Deebo, they should pay him whatever he asked for and give him an extra $2 million just to make sure he's happy on top of that. But when Adam Shefter came out, to me, nail in the coffin, he's gone. And the reason for that is 49ers are very tight-lipped when it comes to the narrative that they portray. And that's something that we know. We see them trying to control the narrative all the time. That they are now putting out there because, one, I'm not the biggest fan of Adam Shefter. Like, I think that he's a little suspect when it comes to just him and, you know, some of the ways he puts out tweets and whatnot. But this was completely on behalf of the 49ers, shilling for the 49ers, going out there and saying this would already be taken care of when if Deebo would have just signed the contract, and Deebo's the reason why this deal isn't getting done. 49ers are willing to get him whatever he wants. Well, that is a bold-faced lie, because the 49ers can't sign him, because for the first time, Jesse, I've been kind of on this trail like, hey, Jimmy isn't affecting our ability to sign people this offseason. It's not affecting our ability to re-sign players. But Jack broke it down on the show that I was on prior to this with him, that there's no way for the 49ers to be able to sign Deebo, because they can't come up with the money that is needed to give him the type of signing bonus and all that kind of stuff to give him the extension this year. And the reason they can't do that is because Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the roster, and that $27 million cannot be used to help extend Deebo. And so when you're seeing that there's facts that this can't happen with the way the 49ers roster is currently constructed, the only reason, in my opinion, Jesse, that this type of news is coming out from the 49ers is they know Deebo's about to request a trade, and they're getting out in front that we wanted Deebo to be here, but Deebo doesn't want to be here, which is why we're trading him for insert whatever the trade package is going to be.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we're going to get into the more juicy part. Maybe there's some people in here. It seems like the way people are talking is maybe they don't know about the rest of it, and maybe they do. They're just giving their opinions on this portion of it. But I agree. I think that this is Schefter. I feel like I spelled his name wrong. It looks weird to me for some reason. Is it 2 F's? Is it? I don't know.
No, you forgot a C.
What was that?
I think you forgot a C.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Let's see. Adam Shefter. I knew it looked weird. Adam. That's what it is. And it's bugging me, and I got to fix it now because it's just super annoying. But I do agree. I think that Adam Shefter is just speaking on behalf of what the 49ers want him to put out there. And it is. I said it before. This is the court of public opinion. And when Matt Mayoko went out and said the things that he said last week, I believe that was all for a reason. I believe that is because the 49ers are trying to put their side out there just in case ish really hits the fan and Deebo does, in fact, end up being traded. I think the 49ers wanted out there that they did everything they could do to get the deal done. And Deebo, on the flip side, is doing everything he can do to get paid, right? And so once that court of public opinion starts happening, that's when it gets really interesting. And that's why I think even more so, Deebo coming out just a couple days ago and talking about getting racial messages and death threats. I don't think he's purposely trying to play the court of public opinion there, but that does play into it, right? Now all of a sudden people are feeling bad for Deebo. He should get his money. And more people are now swayed to go to that side, as they should be. By the way, we've been very clear this whole time. Deebo deserves to get paid whatever a team will pay him, whether that is the 49ers or that is a different team. Let's be clear about that. Deebo, you're doing nothing wrong. Get your money. I'm just not sure it's going to be with the 49ers, right? And so every little thing that gets released, 49ers fans are swayed one way or another. And so, again, the 49ers doubled down today with the Adam Shefter stuff. Yes, he says it's an opinion. Yes, he's throwing it out there like an opinion, not like a report. But at the same time, these are important nuggets if you are trying to put together this piece of the puzzle, and going all the way back to 12 days ago when Deebo removed or stopped following the 49ers. The day after, he removes everything, scrubs everything, and then every little ancillary piece continues to happen. It's just trending in a weird direction, to say the least.
And Jesse, I've kind of been a homer for the 49ers with some of their decision-making when it comes to the brass, right? I wasn't as hard on the DeForest Buckner trade, because I knew they made a decision with Eric Armstead being another person that needed to get paid, and they chose flexibility of a guy that could play on the outside and the inside versus D-Buck, and they felt that they could get, a top 15 pick with DeForest Buckner. Probably couldn't get the same for Armstead. Now, the way that this is playing out, though, Jesse, for me personally, I would think that, if Deebo does get traded or isn't with the team anymore, which I've already mentioned and been out there saying that I don't think he comes back to the team, to me, this would be a black eye on the team. We just saw this happen in Kansas City where Tyreek Hill and the team couldn't come to an agreement on a contract, and the team just came out and said, hey, Tyreek and us couldn't come to a deal, so we're allowing his team to go seek a trade, right? Amicable. Nobody was thrown under the bus. It wasn't contentious. It wasn't that we're willing to pay this guy, but he doesn't want to take our money. It was none of that. They just let the guy go their separate ways because it wasn't going to work out. I don't understand. And, a lot of people were going at Deebo for scrubbing his thing. It was just a negotiating tactic. And we're just idiots for believing there's actual emotion behind these moves. Look, right. Jesse, I don't see, and maybe you can illuminate me, because I don't see a way back for these two sides to come back to the table, even if the money's right, even if all that kind of stuff is there, because I believe Deebo knows there's a contract over there with the Jets that is willing to give him the same amount of money, if not more, than the 49ers will. I'm sure he knows there's other teams out there that are willing to give him the same amount of money that the 49ers will, if not more. And I just don't know how emotionally and ego-wise or whatever Deebo could come back to a team that just blatantly threw him under the bus with this Adam Shefter news. It's just like it keeps getting heightened and heightened and heightened, Jesse, and I don't know how this de-escalates. The only way I think this is possible is if Shanahan comes out and tells the team, Deebo needs to be on this team. Stop with all of this pettiness. Stop with this back and forth. Give him a blank check. Let him write it out. Sign just like he did with Trent Williams when, push come to shove. Shanahan had to get involved and make sure that Trent came back to the team. I think that's the only way this gets solved, because I don't think if it's just Deebo in the front office, I don't know if that mends, man.
Yeah, I don't know if it does either. Let me get to this comment, and then we're going to break down the second half of this, which is, to me, the crazier part. And I know there's a lot of opinions on this, but I've got a ton of thoughts on this one. Miguel says, let me get this pulled up first.
Santana.
Okay, so Miguel Santana says Parag and John Lynch need one of those Will Smith smacks. Bro, I'm telling you, if I tweeted this out about 10 days ago, and I said, imagine if I had told you a month ago that Jimmy Garoppolo would be on this team when the season started and Deebo Samuel wouldn't. You would have laughed at me. Life comes at you quick. And people are like, of course they get all worked up. It's not even true. Where are you hearing this? I'm just throwing things out there, right? But now it's starting to trend that way. If Deebo Samuel gets traded before Jimmy Garoppolo, like, what are we doing here? What is going on? This situation's very, very frustrating. And whatever it is, if he does get traded, I hope that they get a lot in return. And again, I hope it's to a team that's willing to pay Deebo Samuel and everybody ends up happy. But let me show you some love, Miguel. I appreciate you for tapping in, man. I appreciate you for the donation. Here you go. Okay.
Can I add one more little bit before we move on? Because there's something that Rohan Chakravarti, our boy, pointed out. So yesterday, Denzel Ward just got broken off, right? On an extension, $100 million, big guaranteed money for a player who's good. But this free agency, J.C. Jackson just got a big deal with the Chargers. Now, Denzel Ward's contract is much better than what J.C. Jackson got. He got more guaranteed money. He got, a longer term. And I think that most people would say J.C. Jackson and Denzel Ward, as far as production, J.C. Jackson is head over shoulders better than Denzel Ward. Not taking away from Denzel Ward, just J.C. Jackson is that dude. Guess who reps Denzel Ward? The same
Is
guy.
it J.C. Jackson's agent?
No.
Oh, Deebo's agent?
Deebo's agent. Okay, so one of the biggest arguments that people have with Deebo wanting the type of money that he has is he hasn't put up the numbers consistently like Tyreek Hill. He hasn't put up the numbers consistently like Devontae Adams. He hasn't put up the numbers consistently like Stephon Diggs. Well, he has a agent who just took a player that doesn't have the same stats as a Gilly Lock, doesn't have the same stats as a J.C. Jackson, doesn't have the same prestige, and got them a better contract than those guys got. So if I'm Deebo and this is my contract, my agent, and he's whispering in my ear, don't listen to what these guys are saying. There are teams that are willing to give you this money. If it's not going to be the 49ers, we'll go get it over here and insert whatever team he's probably knows has a contract on there. It's just more to the equation, Jesse, that makes me, when you asked what's the chances of Deebo going, I said, it's I don't know if I said 60 or 80%, but I'm saying 80%, man. Before the draft, Deebo's traded.
So when we talked about this last week, we did give a percentage. I think at that time I said 80% Deebo stays. I'm at the 50-50 mark right now. I hate to play it in between, but I really feel like this could go either way. And it's crazy because last week we talked about how this thing will be settled by the 29th. I was heavily leaning towards Deebo staying. I really was. But the Schefter stuff, to be honest, the Schefter stuff alone would not have swayed me at all. I would have sat on that 80-20. By the way, there is a Vegas bet you can make. It's actually 70% that Deebo stays. That was as of yesterday. I don't know after today's bombshells were dropped, but as of yesterday, it was 70%, and you could bet on that. I would have said 80. After the Schefter news, I would have said 80. But this stuff with his brother has completely swayed me. Completely swayed me. So if you guys don't know, guys and gals, if you don't know what I'm talking about, so Brad from the SF 49ers, I want to make sure to give him credit. And really, it was one of his followers and listeners that I want to give credit to because they pointed this out to him, apparently, that on his Facebook that he runs, on Brad's Facebook, Taekwon Samuel, who's Deebo Samuel's brother, 3 days ago now, responded to a comment. Somebody said, trade him. His comment was, don't worry, we're asking for a trade. Okay. Then he doubled down and said he won't be a 49er. That's all that matters. And then he tripled down and said, y'all will see if the money ain't right, we out of here. This was 3 days ago. Okay. Now, a lot of people are posting basically after that went viral about 2 hours ago. He starts backtracking and posting on his Instagram. Well, he's not going anywhere. Y'all will run with anything. People are posting screenshots of DMs to him where he's saying that he's going to stay a 49er. All that sounds fine and dandy, but you weren't saying this 3 days ago. Why are you coming out and saying this now? You're saying it now because it's gone viral and your brother has told you, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth, dude. What are you doing? Because if I stay a 49er, like I'm already getting death threats. I'm already getting racial stuff in my inbox. We talked about it. The court of public opinion is out there. The 49ers are putting out their truth. I'm putting out my truth. Now you come out and speak for me, and this thing goes viral. I look like I forced my way out of San Francisco when that may or may not be the case. And so if I get traded, everybody's going to side with the 49ers on this thing, right? Or if I don't get traded and this thing continues to linger, it's only going to get worse for me. The situation only gets worse for me. So in my opinion, what's happening here is this man not only said it, then he doubled down on it, then he tripled down on it, didn't say anything for 3 days. This thing goes viral, and all of a sudden he wants to backtrack To me, that's Deebo reaching out to him saying, dude, what are you doing? What the hell is going on? That's the way that I read this situation. I believe everything he said he meant. This was also 3 days ago, right after that racial stuff came out. Okay. And if it had not been discovered and gone viral, he would have continued to run with it in that chat. He would have let it sit. But the moment it went viral, all of a sudden he's backtracking. I don't buy it for a second. I'm sorry, but at some point, people, for everybody that thinks there's no chance this man's getting traded, first it was Deebo never followed the 49ers on Instagram. When I was the first one to post a video about it, that night that happened, the first one, all I was told was Deebo never followed him on Instagram. 24 hours, that gets walked back because Deebo scrubs his account. Then all these other little things have happened. Mayoko comes out. Schefter comes out. Deebo's brother says what he says. And all along the way, all I've heard is no chance. Y'all are making something out of nothing, making a mountain out of molehills. At what point do we just look at the situation for what it is? And I'm not saying he's for sure getting traded. I just told you it's a 50-50 shot in my opinion. But to act and continue to act as if this is not a big deal, it's laughable to me. Like, what more do you need to see? What more do you need to see? At every single turn, you've said this is nothing. And at the end of the day, he may end up staying and you can say, haha, I told you this was nothing. But that doesn't mean it was never nothing. It just means that it got worked out. There is something to this. This is a much bigger deal. And the fact that it's all coming to a head, I don't know, 10 days before the NFL draft, there's a reason for that. There is an absolute reason for it. I stand on everything. I believe this is a big deal, and we'll see where it goes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And look, when family, friends, all that kind of stuff, they don't have the same necessarily foresight. They're not in there with the agents. They're not in there with, whatever. They're just there with their brother, with their friend, whatever, in those intimate moments. Right? Just say, hey, this is Deebo's probably spouting off. This is how I feel. If these fans think I should get traded, cool. We gonna trade. If they're not gonna give me the money, we'll just demand a trade. All these types of things, I'm sure, or I can imagine, these are words that have come out of Deebo. So his brother is just reiterating that because he's trying to have his brother's back when fans are out there saying trade Deebo. He's like, all right, we're going to ask for a trade, right? Because obviously all of this is affecting, probably the conversations and all that kind of stuff are having. So it's not the first time we've seen a brother in the NFL, mess things up for the player, right? We see it with Patrick Mahomes' brother all the time. Now Deebo's brother is getting involved and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not nothing. Now, could we both be wrong? Like, I mean, you're still
OBJ worked himself out of Cleveland through his dad.
Right.
Like that just happened not too long ago. Did we just completely forget that that's a thing?
Right. And for me, I mean, I'm pretty like, I feel like Deebo is gonna be gone because I just don't think the type of personality Deebo has is one to just acquiesce to the way the situation's being handled. I think Deebo feels disrespected. The way that he scrubbed his Instagram is different from how other people scrub their Instagram. And it seems like, Deebo's just living his best life. And now on top of that, with the way the 49ers are playing it, and then you add on what the brother just said, I mean, this is just, hey, if this is all just an act, call me Pinocchio, because they got me like a puppet right now, eating all of this stuff up. But it's just, if there's smoke, there's fire. Never seen a negotiation go like this and it just be an act or there's nothing there, right, Jesse? We always see this type of stuff turn out to be exactly what we thought it was.
Yeah, and again, I want to reiterate, and Richard says it, and I think I already addressed it. I didn't even see that you had said this, but I'm glad that you said it, even if it's pointed towards me and you're calling me a troll or whatever you want to say. That's fine. But I think that it's important that this gets highlighted because I think a lot of people feel the way that you feel. But again, at what point do we start to take things serious? When do we take things serious? Because his brother didn't shoot it down until it became a big deal, right? You don't think it's at all possible that Deebo reached out to his brother and was like, dude, you better find a way to make this right. Like, what are you doing? Even if that's the case, even if that's the private conversations, I don't want you speaking for me right now. Like, keep your mouth shut. And so, of course, he's going to backtrack and he's going to, oh, no, it's not, he's staying. And I was just, haha, you guys are running with things. Just like I heard Deebo Samuel. This was my favorite one. Deebo Samuel scrubbed his Instagram because he's trolling 49er fans. Really? That's what we genuinely think, because I find it funny that when you just put the pieces together and everything that's happened along this process, if that's the conclusion you come to, I think the tinfoil hat's on your end of the things and not mine. That's just me, though. But I appreciate.
There's some fans that don't want to believe it, man, and I get it, because Deebo's probably the best player that we have as far as unicorn on the team.
Yeah, of course.
And to like even think like, how you do those little phases of like emotions and stuff like that. A lot of people are in that denial phase right now, because there's a lot of fans.
I should make a Deebo one. I really should.
You should, because a lot of fans, I think, and rightfully so, can't imagine a team without Deebo on there. So they just want to ignore what's happening. But if you take your emotions out of it and you just look at this as humans, this is if Deebo's just doing this as a negotiating tactic, it's the worst negotiating tactic in the world. If the 49ers are doing this as a negotiating tactic, this is the worst negotiating tactic in the world. What is being solved by airing out dirty laundry through Instagram, through Adam Shefter, through your brother, through all this kind of stuff? There's no gain to it. It just looks sloppy. It looks messy. NFL teams don't work like this unless it's actually messy and sloppy. And that's where we're at right now.
His brother had 3 options, Suneil. His brother had 3 options, right? Let's remove Deebo from the equation. Let's say Deebo didn't reach out. Deebo doesn't care. Do whatever you want, brother, which I find hard to believe, because this is Deebo's brand on the line, not his brother, right? Mm-hmm. But let's assume Deebo didn't say a word. Deebo doesn't know. Deebo doesn't care. His brother had 3 options when this went viral. He could quadruple down after he's tripled down, which would be by far the worst case scenario. He can sit on his hands and say nothing, right? Which then everything runs like wildfire. Or he can try to put the fire out. And I can tell you, the way that his brother was responding in those posts seems like a pretty emotional guy, right? He wants to stand up for his brother. He puts his family first, and he cares about what fans think about his brother. Understandably so. I can't even imagine what it would feel like if you have a family member that's a primetime star in the NFL in the middle of negotiations like this. Your brother's getting death threats and racial things thrown his way. I would imagine that I would be pretty emotional as well, right? Just the way that I'm built. So I imagine his brother's probably a pretty emotional guy and has his heart wrapped up in this thing. So the only option he really truly had was to try to backtrack on this thing. And it obviously worked for some of y'all. Some of y'all believe it, right? That's cool. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm the one with the tinfoil hat, right? I just don't think I'm not backing off of it. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I wish I could say that was the case. And one thing I've always tried to do is be genuine and tell you guys exactly how I feel. Some people, take it and, you're looking for clicks and content. But anytime I've ever been live here on the channel, I've always just given you how I feel in that moment. How I feel in this moment is I want Deebo to stay. Deebo is the most important player right now for the San Francisco 49ers at this very moment. If Deebo's gone, that is not a good thing for the 49ers. I still think it's a 50-50, but man, if this thing doesn't have legs, dude, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to say, but you weren't at 50-50 last week. So I
was at 80-20.
So right. You're going more to my side than anything else, right?
Right. Ken Martin says, here's $2. Appreciate you. Thank you. Tinker says, yeah, when Deebo comes around, I'll be quiet. But when he's gone, I'll be talking again. Yeah, that's the thing, right? And this is when you're a content creator, you put yourself out there, and football and life in general to me is about being able to change your mind when new information is presented to you, right? Again, last week I said 80-20 Deebo's back. New information's been presented to me. I'm at a 50-50, right? Maybe something happens in the next hour that changes my mind again. And maybe you're looked at as a flip-flopper when those things happen. But to me, I think anybody who's not stubborn in their ways and is willing to take the information for what it is, think about it, assess it, break it down, and come to a conclusion to the best of their ability in that moment, I think that's a smart way to live life. And information changes. And when that information does, you can't be so stubborn on being right that you're not willing to change your opinion. Because I think that's not a smart way to live life personally. So I feel it. I definitely feel it. Anyways, appreciate all of you guys. Here's some love. Oh, spicy. My gosh. I just, as a fan, here's what happened. Just a little personal information. So put my kids to bed. They go to bed at 8:00 Eastern. This was about 2 hours ago. I'm a little hungry, so I put them to bed around 8:30 or so. I ate a bowl of cereal, and I start just aimlessly scrolling through Twitter, and that's when everything happens. So then I go to Brad's channel, show him love, and basically scroll through his video, try to catch myself up on what's going on. And so I'm really going through the roller coaster of emotions as a fan, just like everybody else is. I'm just doing it kind of live right now with you guys. Like, that's where I'm at. I think Suneil can attest to this. When I came on, I was a couple minutes late. I was a little frazzled. Like, what the hell's going on? It's a lot, man. It is a lot. It's a lot. Tinker says it was a pun to the movie Friday. Hey, that's cool. I appreciate that. But I think that there was also some truth to what you said. And so that's the way I took it. And I'm just giving you love. Appreciate it, man. Let me give you love again for this donation. I appreciate it.
I was waiting for the Carlton to come out.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. All right. Well, there are some other things going on, believe it or not, that is not Deebo Samuel related. So let's see how many of these original topics that we can actually make it through before the show has to end, because I'll be going on with Wayne Breezy on his channel. Okay, I think the other piece of biggest, well, actually, let's go this route. Let's backtrack through, because I think that there is some things that we can draw from AJ Brown's situation and how it relates to Deebo, because AJ Brown's agent is also Deebo Samuel's agent, right? And I don't know if you're following, but AJ Brown just scrubbed his Twitter, removed Tennessee Titans stuff. AJ Brown, much like Deebo, is getting death threats and whatever in his DMs, and he's choosing to not work out during these team get-togethers like Deebo. Let me ask you this way, because I think it's pretty obvious that these things line up. Whose deal gets done first, AJ Brown's or Deebo Samuel's? And that could be Deebo. Deebo could get his deal done first with a different team. I'm not saying with their current team, just in general, whose deal goes down first in your opinion?
So this is interesting, because look, this agent seems like he knows what he's doing, right? So I would imagine
he has DK, by the way, also.
Right. So and is DK next? I don't know. Like, I think DK's situation is a little bit different just because the way that team is, right? They're in a rebuild, so maybe DK doesn't have as much leverage because they're getting rid of everybody, right? If they're willing to trade Russell Wilson, why wouldn't they trade DK, right? So but AJ and Deebo are both one of the best weapons on teams that are in contention. So it's either kind of, I mean, both of them are in the situation where it's like you either pay them or trade them, because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to have this go into training camp and then lose all the leverage to where you don't get draft picks that you can maybe like fill some holes to help you contend this season, right? So I just think for me, Tennessee gets done. I think Tennessee I don't think AJ is going to get traded. I think he will sign with Tennessee because Tennessee has nothing behind him at the receiver position.
Yeah.
Deebo, I mean, the 49ers at least have Brandon Ayuk, who I think, a lot of us still think is going to be like a wide receiver 1. But I do think Deebo's deal gets done because I think Deebo is either going to get signed or traded before the draft. And so I just think that means that Deebo is going to get done before AJ because I think AJ is going to remain a Titan when all things are said and done.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's tough, though, because if Deebo gets traded first, that means his deal gets done when he gets traded, right? So I think if you're leaning towards Deebo getting traded, maybe his deal gets done first.
That's what I'm saying. Deebo's deal gets done first.
Yeah. So, but I'm still 50-50, so I don't know what to think of the whole thing. I think DK's deal gets done before all of them. Okay.
Oh, was he an option? I'm sorry. I thought
no. I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, between AJ Brown and Deebo, and the reason that I'm just throwing DK out there is because he seems more willing to participate in these things that are coming up, right? And so it seems to me like he's probably going to be the first domino to fall. And then the agent is using AJ Brown and Deebo. So I'm going to say no matter what, Deebo Samuel's deal gets done last. I know that I went 50-50. I'll go 50.5 now that he's staying with the 49ers just for the sake of this. And if that's the case, I think his deal is the last one to get done. If he gets traded, obviously he gets done pretty quick. So I'm going to go with AJ Brown's deal to get done. By the way, this is worst case scenario for the 49ers and their side of negotiations. AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, maybe McLaurin gets a deal. Deebo's money, his guaranteed money is going to be through the freaking roof, especially if he's the last one to get done. This is worst case scenario. And this is also why I believe what Adam Shefter is saying and that the 49ers would love to get the deal done. This is something that I said 2 months ago. As soon as the offseason starts, you have to pay Deebo right away. Give him what seems like too much money, 4-year, $100 million, $70 million guaranteed. At that time, people would have been like, oh my, wow, you overpaid. That's crazy. I can't believe it. But what you're seeing here is the reason why you do exactly what I said. And I think the 49ers are smart enough to realize that was the right situation and the right way to go about the situation. They tried to pay Deebo. Deebo said, no. I'm 26. I'm only going to get the bag once. So I'm going to hold out because I got 2 brothers that are under the same agency, and both of them are going to get the bag, and I'm going to let them get the bag first, and then I'm going to get the bag. So I think that's what's going on here. Smart, very, very smart by Deebo Samuel. Certainly understand where he's coming from. Barry, a baller tapping in, says background is fire. I don't know how you did that. I'm learning some new tricks, Bay. I'm learning some new tricks. So yeah, it takes quite a bit of time, but doing some cool things with the overlay. You guys let me know. Give me your opinion. Is it annoying with the player scrolling through? Do you like it? How do you feel about it? Definitely open for feedback. But yeah, Deebo's going to get paid last. I think that's where this thing is trending for sure. For sure.
You hope so, because that means he's staying with the 49ers.
Okay. The other biggest 49er, this is what I thought was going to be the biggest 49er news to talk about tonight, was Alex Mack. And it sounds like it's still up in the air whether he returns or not. It was reported today, I believe, by Matt Barrows, maybe. Trying to remember who it was. I think it was Barrows. Anyways, he said, or somebody said, that Alex Mack is still undecided. It's starting to sound a lot like that Joe Staley situation a little bit, where only the 49ers knew he was going to retire. It allowed them to have some leverage come draft night. How do you feel about the Alex Mack situation? Do you, if you're what, 70% you said Deebo's gone, where are you on Alex Mack? as far as retirement and staying with the 49ers? What's your percentages on that?
I don't think he's coming back. And
Really?
yeah, so I think
You're the
he's
negative
foregoing.
one tonight.
I'm just reading tea leaves, man. I'm just out here reading tea leaves, like my bald head, like the glass, But anyways, he just foregoed $100,000 workout bonus, right? Because he's not showing up to off-season stuff, so he's giving up money. Usually, when you're giving up money, there's a reason for that. Here's the thing that confused me about this, Jesse, because the 49ers, once again, I always go from the baseline. The 49ers are always trying to control the narrative. That's just what I've seen from this regime since they've been here, is they're very, very much into making sure that the narrative is their narrative. And when the Joe Staley thing was going on, they wanted to keep it up in the air and confusing. Like, there wasn't talk about, they were just like, oh, he's thinking about all this kind of stuff, so that they could go make the bombshell trade to get Trent Williams in, right? With nobody really knowing that that's what they're doing. This to me is a little more like, not transparent, but it's like the attempt is transparent. So you're not fooling anybody, right? The 49ers, if Alex Mack is gone, is probably going to go center in the draft, which we all think they were going to do anyways, right? And I just think it kind of hurts the 49ers' ability, because now people might, when there is a center that's there, they know that's on the radar for the 49ers. They could jump ahead of the 49ers. They could do all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, I just think it takes away from the leverage that the Niners might have as far as keeping, what they're looking for in the draft more hidden. But I don't think Mack comes back at this point. Like, at this point, you would have already heard it, and the team would have already been making moves. I think Jack kind of said it on the show. I think Brunskill is going to end up being the starting center for the 49ers this year.
Interesting. I've got a theory. I'm gonna hold out on half that theory, because Grant and I are going to talk about it tomorrow, and I don't want to repeat myself. But the other half of the theory is, no matter what, I think they were going to draft a center, like you said. I think third round. I think it's that third overall, that third pick that they have. I believe it's in round 3. I think that's a prime spot to go center. I really do. I think that there's going to be multiple guys out there that are pretty damn good. And whether it's, playing behind Mack or another veteran center, that's a teaser, or just outright being the starter this year, I think that those guys could certainly do it. So to me, I think the 49ers are going to be okay here. I still think Alex Mack is coming back, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but I go back to when he got married, some of the things that were put out at that time, some of the messages that he liked about coming back. I think Alex Mack does eventually decide to come back. I think what's happened here is he's gotten married. He's probably enjoying the married life, honeymoons, traveling, family, all those other things. And I think that he has to make a decision by the draft. I think the 49ers are going to ask that of him, which I think is totally fair. You're under contract. They need to know which direction to go. And I think Alex Mack will oblige them on that. I think when push comes to shove and he has to make that final decision, that he's going to decide to stay. So maybe that's wishful thinking, but that's just my opinion. I think that's the route that he'll probably go with this. But if he doesn't, there are other options available. And I think no matter what, drafting the center certainly has to happen for sure.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, maybe 2. Linda taps in, says, my understanding is that not many 49ers showed up today for phase 1 of OTAs, but it was only a big deal that it was Deebo not showing up. Yeah, Linda, I think we talked quite a bit on Twitter, but yeah, you know what? You're right. I think, again, if we're talking about the Adam Shefter thing, if we're talking about Deebo not showing up today, what's crazy is Deebo not showing up today before all this news broke, and you and I, Suneil, had a whole program put together of what we were going to talk about. The topic list was out there. Deebo not showing up to camp was not even a part of it, because we both understand that if you're trying to get paid, you don't show up and work out. Like, that's That's not what you do. What if you get hurt? Then you never make your money. So I think that was just much ado about nothing. I don't think that was that big of a deal. Again, the Adam Shefter news by itself, probably not a big deal. It's the brother side of things that has really got my wheels turning. And somebody, Bill Belichick, it's a great name, by the way.
That's a great name.
Says there was a report that Deebo's brother was just kidding. Yeah, it's not so much a report. It's him saying that. But if you go back earlier in the show, in case you're not able to, I'll just recap with you. I think that was his only option. Either Deebo pinned him down and said, dude, what are you doing? You got to walk this back. Or he had basically one option or two options, which was to sit on his hands and let this thing run like wildfire, or to respond and try to walk it back. This man tripled down that night, right? This was 3 days ago. He said it 3 different times, had multiple opportunities to walk it back then or not say it again, put the phone down, walk away from the conversation, said it 3 separate times that Deebo was leaving, requesting a trade, or if he doesn't get paid, he's out. That, to me, I think that's more likely that for whatever reason, he's decided to walk it back for PR reasons, but I think he meant everything he said. I really do believe that. And then Arvis says, be right back on a Zoom call. Keep doing dope things. I'm looking up to you. Arvis calls in. He's about I think he's 7'3", if I remember correctly. So the fact that he looks up to me, I appreciate that, Arvis. That means the world to me. Man. That means the world to me. All right, I think we can get in one more topic before we go to. Actually, you know what? It's not really a topic, but I want to bring this up because I feel really good about this, right?
I literally laughed out loud when you sent me this topic.
It's not a topic so much, but I was trying to put a smile on people's faces, right? Like it's so uptight. You got the Deebo thing. You got Jimmy still on the roster. I think we should be excited with the draft around the corner. And I was kind of over talking about everything that had to do with Deebo until everything happened tonight. I was going to give it a rest for at least a day. But to me, this is really cool to know and some really good news. So I put this out there earlier, and I'll read it off to you guys. But Trey Lance will complete 3 seasons in the NFL. By the time he completes those 3 seasons, he will be 23 years of age, which is the same age that Mack Jones and Justin Fields are today. It's the same age that Zach Wilson will be prior to his 2nd season. It's the same age as Burrow when he played his final game at LSU was, and it's the same age that a very raw Malik Willis, who's entering the draft this season, will be when he plays his rookie season. 3 years this man will be in the NFL, and he will be the same age as all those guys at that point in their career. That's crazy to think about. And I know that a lot of people have high expectations for Trey Lance, and I'm one of them. Like, I've been very vocal on how good I think Trey's going to be, and I think he will be great. But I hope that people understand what I just said and are willing to give this man a little bit of grace when it doesn't go perfect, because it's not going to go perfect, not right away. I think he's going to be fine. I think by the time the season ends, he's going to be a much better option than Jimmy ever was for this team. But there's going to be some hiccups along the way. And I hope that people give Trey Lance some of that grace as he's working through those things, remembering that he's making his first real season, full season, playing as a quarterback in the NFL. What are just some of your thoughts when I read those age statistics off to you? Like, first of all, holy crap, Burrow was really old. Like, he was 23 years old in the national championship game,
right?
And Trey will have 3 full seasons under his belt by the time that he's 23. So it's just crazy to me. What are your thoughts on that, if any?
I think it's wild that you said Joe Burrow was freaking old and he's 23 years old. Right? like
relatively speaking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it just shows, sometimes I think us as fans just get lost, seeing, can you imagine? I could remember what I was doing at 20 and 21 years old. I was not ready to lead a NFL team at any stretch. I don't know if I've ever been mature enough to lead an NFL team, and I'm 38 at this point, right? So, so just the level of pressure that's on these guys, the youth that they have. I mean, it's obviously they're in a public sphere that gives them or gives us the opportunity to nitpick and make comments and things like that. But if we just take our emotions out of it and just look at, what these kids basically are accomplishing, it's phenomenal, man. And it's great. We are very blessed to have the opportunity for Trey to be the starting quarterback for our team. And, if he turns out to be anything like we think he's going to be, we're going to have that quarterback position locked down for a very, very long time with the 49ers, which, is going to bode well for this team. And if you're a fan of this team, for the next decade. Because if Tom Brady could play till he's 45, that means we have what? If I do the math right, he's 21, 22. Oh, we got 13 years of Trey at quarterback. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, if he plays till he's 35, he plays longer than that. We got more. But Tinker becoming a new member. Tinker, I appreciate you, man. You are showing major love tonight. If you're not a member and you want to become a member for less than a cup of coffee, you will get extra content. And right now, we're going through our draft content. Got tons of all 22 video out there for guys that I think the 49ers should be looking at. So that's all out there for you. If you want to get prepped up on the draft, there's more videos coming before the draft as well. Great way to join the channel. Right next to the subscribe button, if you close the chat, there's a join button. Make sure you do the $4.99, not the $1.99 if you do want that extra content. But we appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to Suneil's channel as well. So Real Sports Talk, link should be in the description. Make sure that you give him some love because he's here with me every Tuesday giving great opinions. And he's trying to get to 1,000 as well so he can get monetized and enjoy some of the love that you guys show me. Tinker also says, I just kicked a field goal and it was good. So Tinker, it sounds like you signed up for the field goal membership. Appreciate you just showing love. Whatever you want to do, anybody just signing up is awesome. But if you want that extra content, go for the touchdown. So just letting you know, every time you kick a field goal, you're one step closer to losing. That's what Steve Young said. I'm just going to throw that out there, right? But Suneil, thank you so much, man. Great show. I actually, and we don't have time to dive deep into it, but somebody made a comment, and I want to find it. Somebody made a comment I think it was CJ. I could be wrong, but somebody made a comment saying that the window's closed if Deebo gets traded. And I think that's a conversation for another day. Maybe we can hold it off till next week. But it does remind me of something that I said when they were making this Super Bowl run. And I don't know if I ever said it on here, but I said it a lot through Twitter Spaces. And you just never know. When you don't win a Super Bowl and you're that close, you never know what's going to happen. Nobody could have predicted COVID. Nobody could have predicted the mass exodus that the 49ers had during the Harbaugh era. Nobody certainly could have seen this Deebo stuff coming from a mile away. And now it's here. Maybe he stays, maybe he's traded. But it just shows the importance of winning when you have the chance. The 49ers didn't do that, unfortunately, on the two chances they've had. And who knows? You never know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe everything works out great. Maybe they get a ring here in the next couple of years. Or maybe guys like Deebo Samuel, your best players, want out and end up not re-signing. So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully Deebo stays. But, man, I got to say, you just never, ever know. Appreciate all of you for tapping in. We got up to nearly 200 people tonight. Still at 175 strong. If you want more content, I'm going to be on Wayne Breezy's channel. So go check us out over there. And
that's going to be a fire show. Go check that out. That's going to be a fire show. Didn't mean to cut you off, but you guys need to go watch that.
All right. Hey, peace, y'all. Thank you so much.